Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing a strategic hazard assessment for Europe, Western Russia, and the Caucasus. We're looking at the period from November 19th through to the 28th, 2025. And we have a really unique situation on our hands because the whole forecast seems to be, well, locked in place by one single powerful mechanism.
It really is. The entire overarching pattern is being dictated by a massive planetary wave pattern. We call it the North Atlantic Dipole.
The North Atlantic Dipole, right?
You can almost picture it acting like this huge, immovable synoptic funnel. It's forcing all these weather systems into very specific tracks and just stopping them from moving on.
So if the dipole is the mechanism, the thing locking everything in place, what's the fuel? I mean, what's making the actual hazards so severe this time around?
That's the key question.
Yeah.
And our sources point straight to thermodynamics, specifically record-breaking sea surface temperatures in the North Atlantic.
Okay, so that heat is supercharging the storms.
Exactly. Think of like the atmosphere having a bigger fuel tank for moisture. There's a principle, Clausius-Clapeyron scaling, which basically says a warmer ocean dramatically increases the water vapor that a storm can carry.
Right, and that amplification is creating, what, 3 very different hazard zones we need to track?
That's it. We have the cyclonic domain over Western Europe, a deep continental Arctic domain in Russia, and then this extreme volatility domain over in the Caucasus.
Let's start with the most immediate issue then, which is Storm Claudia in Western Europe.
Yeah, Claudia. It was named by AEMET, the Spanish agency, because of its first impacts on Iberia.
But now it's parked over the UK and France.
And that's the real problem, persistence. It's just stalling. This is creating severe hydrological risks.
So we're talking about flooding.
Both kinds. Rain-based flooding, what we call pluvial, and river flooding, fluvial, because the ground is already completely saturated, especially in places like Wales and southern England.
And there's a nasty shift coming right after the rain, isn't there? The so-called sting in the tail.
A very abrupt transition. In France, they call it a goutte froide, a cold drop. You get this rush of polar air coming in, and it just crashes temperatures. By how much? We're looking at 5 to 10 degrees Celsius below average, particularly around the Paris region.
Wow. And that brings the first significant frosts.
It does. And critically, warnings for black ice for commuters. That sudden shift from a deluge to a deep freeze is just incredibly dangerous.
Okay, let's shift dramatically east now. The Caucasus region is facing a completely different problem. You called it the thermal shock.
Yeah, this is maybe the highest volatility scenario in the whole forecast.
Why is that?
Because the region is being primed by this really anomalous warmth beforehand. We're talking temperatures reaching 23, maybe 24 degrees Celsius.
That's spring weather.
It is. And it's being fueled by unusually warm Caspian Sea temperatures. So when the cold front finally punches through on November 27th, that clash is explosive.
Triggering thunderstorms.
Latent thunderstorms, and more importantly, severe and damaging westerly wind gusts. We're looking at winds up to almost 75 kilometers per hour. That's a massive risk for offshore and construction operations, especially around Baku.
Meanwhile, Western Russia is just locking into a deep winter. This looks like a very high confidence forecast.
It is, and it's a consequence of that same big pattern. There's a concept called Arctic amplification, where the Arctic warms faster than everywhere else.
Which makes the jet stream weaker and wavier.
Exactly. It gets slower and wavier, which allows that blocking high to just funnel Arctic air straight down into Russia.
And the result for somewhere like the Moscow metro area.
Heavy snow and blizzard conditions. Estimates are somewhere between 13 and 22 centimeters of snow by the end of the month.
That's going to cause chaos.
Oh, it will severely stress municipal operations, major highways like the M10 and M11. They're already issuing advisories about the dangerous real feel, the wind chill. You'll need heavy winter gear just to be outside.
So if we pull this all together, this entire 10-day period is really defined by 2 key factors, isn't it? Persistence from the atmospheric blocking.
And amplification driven by those warm oceans supercharging the storms.
It's the new operational normal, really.
It seems to be.
Which brings us to our final thought. Given these destructive, volatile shifts, going from 24 degrees Celsius to severe frost warnings in the Caucasus almost overnight, how must utility providers, agriculture, how must they fundamentally reevaluate their planning when winter arrives with this kind of destructive abruptness? That's the question we want to leave you with as we wrap up this deep dive.